Good to go. Okay, so I'm live here. Sorry for the delay to everyone in attendance and in person and virtually. It is 5:09. I will now call this Committee of Adjustment meeting to order. I'll start with the reading of the Land Acknowledgement Statement. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabeg, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation, who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. And further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We also recognize the Métis and Inuit people, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder that the agenda be approved as presented. That motion is made by committee member Moore Colburn and seconded by committee member Ladresse. All those in favor? That motion is carried. I'll ask for a declaration of any pecuniary interest. Seeing none, I'll let the members know that if one arises during the course of the meeting, you can declare at that time. I'm going to read a recommendation that the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on September 17th be adopted. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by committee member McMillan and seconded by committee member Ladresse. All those in favor? That motion is carried. I'll call our new business item. We have a new application, a severance application, B2324 for Taylor. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider the application for severance for Ron Taylor under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding property located at part
of lot.
Parts of? Okay, sorry, I didn't want to get it wrong. So I'm going to start again. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider the application for severance for Ron Taylor under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding property located at parts of Lot 19 and 20, Concession 18, Keppel. Madam Secretary Treasurer, please go ahead with your review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There have been no requests for deferral or withdrawal of the application. Notice of the severance in accordance with Ontario Regulation 197/96 made under the Planning Act was given on September 17, 2024 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 60 meters of the property, which is subject to the application and to all the required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and on the township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of the decision of the Committee in respect to this proposed severance may submit an appeal.
Thank you. I will now read the recommendation. It has been demonstrated that the proposed application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and complies with the Grey County Official Plan and the general intent and purpose of the Township of Georgian Bluffs zoning bylaw 2020-20. Accordingly, it is recommended that the application be approved with the following conditions applied. That a reference plan be completed and a copy filed with the municipal clerk, or exemption from the reference plan be received from the Land Registry Office. That pursuant to Section 53, paragraph 42 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent is to be affixed to the deed within 2 years of the giving of the notice of decision or as specified in the Planning Act at the time of the deed stamping. Note, Section 53, paragraph 43 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of the certificate, i.e. the stamping of the deed. That the applicant pays the applicable consent certification fee at the time of the certification of the deeds. 4, that the applicant pays 5% cash in lieu of parkland in accordance with the Planning Act. 5, that a zoning bylaw amendment be enacted for the severed and retained lands that implements the conditions of the AWS Environmental Impact Assessment 2019 through an appropriate holding provision. And finally, that a letter of opinion is completed by a qualified engineer to ensure that the extraction of the bedrock is not feasible. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by committee member Ladresse, seconded by committee member McMillan. Could the planner give us a summary of the planning report regarding this file?
Certainly. Application B 2324 proposes to sever one 3.64 hectare parcel from an existing 6.88 hectare rural parcel intended for future rural residential use. 3.24 hectares of land will be retained for future rural use. Excuse me. In terms of comments received, we did receive comments from the County of Grey, dated October 2nd, 2024. And in summary, the County Planning Department recommends that provided MDS calculations are submitted and setbacks can be obtained, justification is submitted that addresses why a frontage depth ratio greater than the 1.1 to 3 ratio is required, and Georgian Bluff staff are satisfied with the justification, and that a letter of opinion is completed by a qualified engineer to ensure that the extraction of bedrock is not feasible. County planning staff have no concerns. We also, in that same letter, received comments from the Grey County Planning Ecologist, which I included in the commentary on the county's official plan and the report. And in summary, the ecologist notes that the property contains and or is adjacent to significant wildlife habitat, potential habitat for threatened and endangered species, other wetlands, and fish habitat. It's Grey County staff's understanding that the proposed development will be located adjacent to the features with significant development area. Staff have reviewed the environmental impact assessment submitted by AWS and find the report acceptable, provided that the following mitigation measures are adhered to through conditions of approval or other planning processes. Tree cutting and or vegetation clearing for site development activity within the development envelope lands should not occur from May 1st to July 30th during the active nesting and rearing period for migratory birds in compliance with the Federal Migratory Birds Act. If said activities are deemed to be required during this period, the proponent shall undertake bird nesting deterrence measures and bird nesting monitoring activities in accordance with the Migratory Birds Act. That requirement that is brought forward from the environmental impact study is the requirement that will be noted in the holding provision on the several retained lands through the zoning bylaw amendment condition. That is the extent of the comments received from this application.
Thank you, Mr. Planner. I will now call upon the applicant to provide comments. Please state your first and last name for the record prior to beginning.
Hello, I'm Ron Taylor.
I just want to come up to you a little
Okay.
bit. I can hear you a little bit.
Hello, I'm Ron Taylor. What do I need to say?
You don't need to say, so you have the opportunity, the application can stand on its own. I don't think there's not questions that you need to respond to at this time. So yeah. If you
I just appreciate everybody's help.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. So no members of the public have registered to provide comment. I will now call upon any members of the public who may wish to make comment on this application. Please state your first and last name for the record prior to beginning. I see nobody registered. I don't see anybody in attendance or virtually. I'll turn to the committee now. Are there any points raised by the planner, applicant, or public that the committee wishes to respond to? I see no questions or comments from the committee members. If there is no further discussion, I will now call the vote on the motion as presented. All those in favor? That motion is approved. There is no unfinished business. The date of our next regular meeting is November 19th, 2024 at 5 p.m. And if there's no further business, I will now call for an adjournment of this meeting. Looking for a mover and seconder. Moved by committee member Ladresse, seconded by committee member Moore-Colburn. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Have a good night, folks. Get up and they don't.
Yeah.
If there's
no issues,
there's, yeah.
And Michael